Hi, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. My name is Mo. I have the pleasure to invite a digital new media artist, Kan or John or...
Yeah, it's actually John. It's a Turkish name. It's pronounced just like Jon in English.
So who you are, what you do, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is John Büyükberber. I'm a independent digital artist, a visual artist, or a media artist, whatever you call it. Everybody calls me something different depending on when they met me. For some people, I'm a VR artist. For some other people, I'm a projection mapping guy. For some other people, I'm a 3D artist. But I like calling myself an independent visual artist who works with mostly digital media, but there are also physical components as well. My work is an exploration of the relationship between digital and physical spaces. So I like understanding that relationship better, how they overlap, how they intersect, what can we transfer from a physical space into a digital space, or how can we bring digital spaces into physical spaces. So for that I use and experiment with different type of media to bridge that gap between the two. And I usually create immersive audiovisual experiences, whether it is a room full of projectors or an architectural space using LED screens or a VR headset, AR, 3D printing. So I experiment with all kinds of new media to explore that relationship between.
How did you become a new media artist? People don't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, today I want to try new media art. It's such a niche.
Yeah, yeah. I was always interested in art and technology, art and science at the same time from my earliest memories. I always wanted to become an artist and a scientist at the same time, or whether one of these or not. So I have a background in physics and design and art and technology. My earliest amateur works started in my high school days. This goes back to early 2000s. When I had my first personal computer, I started to experiment with software, video editing. I was a huge science fiction fan, and I started mimicking the visual effects of those sci-fi movies. So that led me to 3D animation softwares, compositing, the concept of keyframing, for instance, which allows creating animations. I learned that during those high school days. Um, I started to do amateur work. I was discovered online in the earliest days of YouTube. So I had my first gigs as a semi-professional as a visual effects artist, working for movies and music videos and advertisements in the Turkey's Istanbul media sector. Uh, and I was studying physics at the same time, so there was a art and tech thing going on along with my science interests. But after those earliest days of like working 3 years in the media industry, I decided, okay, this is what I love. I need to learn more about this, and I started studying in a visual communication design. And in that school, we had a very nice modern art museum. We had lots of media art exhibitions coming from Germany, Austria, and that's when I realized, okay, I can use the same techniques, but this shouldn't be for a movie or a music video. This can be an art form in itself, and I can showcase these digital works in a gallery or in a museum. That's when I was, exposed to the media art scene. And after that, I had a master's in art and technology in San Francisco. It's also a great cultural hub as an intersection of the art scene, its historical context, and also the hub, the center for all the technological developments at the moment. So being there also helped me a lot to have an early access to new technologies, being surrounded by a community of people of similar minds. So that's basically the story in a nutshell.
Nice. A few people actually have this background of both. I see more and more today, there are artists who have this idea that they want to create a vision of something, but they lack the knowledge to manipulate Houdini or other softwares, and they just want other technicians, let's say VFX artists or even AI, to carry out their idea. Would you say the core of new media art work is the technique or is the idea? Or you think it's not possible to separate?
Yeah, I think it's not possible to separate. Everybody has their own relationship with technology and their artistic approach. So it's hard to really categorize it. I can talk about my practice. For me, the idea, the concept, the aesthetic, artistic exploration goes along at the same time with the media exploration, because I think this is one of the reasons that we call it a media art. We could call it contemporary art, we can just call it art or whatever. Like I don't really care about those categorizations, but for me, I love exploring a new technology, how we can approach it, what kind of expression it would bring, what is the difference of that particular media from the previous other medias. For instance, VR, virtual reality, is a great new frontier, and it comes with its own aesthetics, its own approach. It's kind of like an expanded cinema, but it's different because you have a first person perspective. So the whole approach, the whole idea of storytelling or tailoring an experience changes with the media. I think some of the best work of the media art comes from utilizing the specific media in its own way, so that it becomes its own unique expression.
I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here.
Sure.
It's maybe just me, but I feel that new media artists are limited by the technological development of others. I mean, the new media artists didn't invent VR glasses, right? So
Right.
you kind of take the bread crumble falling from the great, brilliant minds in science, and then you turn it into something wonderful. It's not less important, but it is in the secondary kind of space that is not really avant-garde. This is my thinking. Contradict me, come on.
I see. Yeah. I mean, a technological innovation comes with its own limitations or own framings. So that is true that in a way we are limited by this recent technological stage or evolution. But at the same time, I had really nice experiences with technologies or software companies that artists are actually usually, a part of that whole innovation process as well, because at the end, you have a certain technology, but you need content to reach out to people with that technology. Otherwise, it's just a black screen. If it doesn't show anything specific, or if it doesn't showcase what kind of beauty it can reveal, then it's kind of useless. So a good technology always needs good art with it. I believe some companies really value an artist or a creator's perspective, so that they can use their tools or devices better, so that those devices or tools can allow you to bring the best of your art to the world.
True, because after all, new media artists are also the clients and users of those technology.
Right.
And as a client, you also have a certain power to choose, to reject, to endorse, and to help with the marketing, right? Word of mouth, you're basically a media in their space to get the word around, to promote and steer the technology into a certain direction. I want to mention one thing. Just a couple of months ago, I was in London attending a conference, and they were talking about small technology. I was in shock. They're like, oh, we need to send smaller photos because larger photo is taking too much space. Taking server space means take energy, take electricity, take the actual rare earth metal resources. So we should make everything smaller. It's like minimalism in digital space, in art space. And I didn't get the point at first because, coming from like Asian culture is more towards the American culture. We want bigger, better, faster. We want the glory. And in Europe, it seems like the movement is the opposite. What do you think? You want the bigger, or you want the more ecological or safer, or how do you see this?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the efficiency, like an efficient or smart product. I mean, when it's necessary or more efficient to use a smaller file or smaller technology, it is wise to do that. But when you prefer, for instance, Christopher Nolan is a great director. He knows with his use of the best camera technologies possible. He works with 70 millimeters, film, and uses IMAX cameras, which are really not that easy to use, giant cameras. But he has a vision to capture the best picture possible. So for his vision, he needs to work with the best, the biggest or largest possible. But for instance, if we're just sending each other a picture on WhatsApp, maybe it doesn't really need that much bandwidth or storage space or whatever. So I think it all comes to efficiency. We need to be careful about if this routine tasks we do, if they use less energy, I think that's good. But if we need to light up something for a short amount of time for the best experience possible, I think we have to be able to do that too.
Nice, yeah. Thinking about the outcome, your vision, and also the customer experience, because your viewers, to reach out to them, to pass through the message, obviously is the whole point of putting out your art out there for people to see.
Yeah.
Right? If it's all pixelated, they can't see nothing. Obviously, like now we are recording the wave files highest quality possible to have a better audio. So I know it's not efficient in a way, but I want to do the extra miles, and the Earth is taking a toll. But that's that's another story. No? How do you get into the world of new media art? Did you apply for a special program or a special kind of festival? Or what are the biggest milestones that made you a professional, emerging, even we can say mid-career, but you're young, you're like my age, so usually we would say, mid-career, mid-age, But would you call yourself a successful new media artist? How did you get there?
I mean, until a certain point, you're always known as a young artist. Like it has a very wide range of ages in it. Like I said, everybody has their own path. There is no right way to do it. But I was kind of fortunate to have certain things aligned in my life. First of all, my passion became my job, so it doesn't feel like a job. So and that's a big thing. I think that we need to feel fortunate if we have a certain constellation like that, like working in a professional environment or a studio for a while to understand the pipelines better, also the industry better. Being in an art school really helps. Also, exposing my work on social media and creating my own network through that. So I mean, possibly today sharing your work is one of the most important things that you can do, because you don't know who's watching, you don't know where can it go. It always amazed me the kind of opportunities arrived through that. I'm always surprised. Oh, I didn't even imagine this such people would be interested in this type of work, or this client or this company, or this gallery or this festival. So just sharing is important, but also in your early stage, 100% you need to apply for residencies, exhibitions, galleries, festivals, and I did that. So some of those exhibitions and festivals also exposes you to newer audiences, to new curators. after a while, I think you find your own momentum, and if you find your own rhythm, you develop your own audience, and after a while, it just begins to happen naturally. You get invited to some things, or you get invited to a certain gallery or exhibition. So right now, I'm lucky that things happen now naturally, unfold naturally for me.
Imagine if I'm a young person, I mean, younger than I am, a 25-year-old coming out of college. I did film school, so I know a bit
Cool.
of, visual effects and stuff. Not like I'm very good at it, but I have the idea and necessary tools, and I want to become a new media artist. Let's say I would like to approach a gallery, art festival, and maybe work with the public sector, that is foundations or other kind of sponsored research and development projects. Out of the three road or paths, what are the kind of intersections? Do they actually have a fight between the careers, or what is the ecosystem? What are the dynamics? For example, how do I sell my new media art? Because obviously it's not like artwork, it's not as tangible, and it's also sometimes too tangible, like a humongous installation that is really
Right.
uncollectible. So tell me a little bit about your advice to a young person who wants to get into it with this, let's say, the three most
Yeah.
approachable ways.
It's tough to find the start. For me personally, studying visual communication design really helps. Especially media arts is a very visual medium. It doesn't have to be. It can be just very invisible. It can be just sound or concepts, like whatever you choose. But communication platforms that we're using is mostly visual. Like there's always an interface we're interacting with, even if it's just text or images. Like there's always a visual component to your communication with your clients, or with the galleries or people you are trying to communicate with. So in that sense, visualizing your ideas, I believe it's important. And studying visual communication design helped me with that, because I think like I can visualize an idea better than I can speak about it or write about it. Because when you visualize something well, for the other people who you are trying to convey the idea, it's easier for them to capture, okay, this is how it's gonna look like, this is the scale, this is the feel of it. And I got better and better along the way with those kind of pre-visualizations. It became first images, then videos, then better PDF presentations. I think to be able to present your idea is important, whatever you're trying to connect to. In your earlier days, it's important to put the ideas, put the seeds out there, that you feel most comfortable with, you feel most proud of, presenting, or you really enjoy producing that kind of work. It's important to put that out there, because people who are interested in your work, in your art, they're gonna see those kind of works first, and usually they want a similar thing that you already produced. So it's important to be careful about what kind of ideas you're putting out there. It might be something that it's really challenging to create, or you don't really love the process. That's why I say you need to be careful, because you're gonna attract similar type of work. Uh, so I think in a way you tailor your own opportunities, your own story, your own destiny with those type of selections in your career.
I like when you say to kind of pitch the idea to others, maybe to your
Uh-huh.
audience, maybe to your colleagues who work in the industry, to your peers. You present yourself as the ABC artist. Let's say, the Houdini huge installation artist, or the VR, first person interactive artist. Or I can imagine that is the niche, that is your own kind of plot. You are the hero in your hero's journey, and you're creating the story. But I also noticed when you talk about the pitching the project, It reminds me of many projects I've seen. They are all kind of not finished projects. They are ideas that you go to a gallery, you go to a foundation, you go to a festival, then they sponsor you to make it.
Right.
So in a way, how do you distinguish yourself with the poodle artist? The poodle artist is my nickname to the artists who draw other people's poodles.
Right. I mean, it's hard. That's a developmental process. That it doesn't, everything doesn't happen 100% the way you want to be at first. Like any other endeavor in life. You learn about it as you interact with the people, with the industry, with the colleagues. Like it is an interactive developmental process, and along the way you better understand your preferences, what you're more comfortable with, or what do you want to don't what you don't want to do, the type of people you don't want to work with or you prefer to working with. So you gotta just get out there and do stuff and collaborate and have failures, have bad clients, good friends, bad friends. Like, you gotta live life for a while before you can be sure that, okay, like, now I understand what type of artist I am. Now I understand better what type of industry this is. So you gotta set your preferences, your approach, your aesthetics. Along the way, you also build a portfolio. There are pieces that you're more proud of. Those gets the more highlights, in your presentations and stuff. And you carve your way with those good and bad experiences. And hopefully, if you learn from those experiences, you attract better interactions and opportunities in life. So, like, there is no way to first I need to decide everything. I need to create the persona, and like everything needs to be ready. Then I will be presenting myself as an artist. Then I will be exhibiting something. That's not gonna happen. Like, you gotta do stuff, experience things, fail, and then learn from it, so that you build your own identity and your own aesthetics and approach.
I have two questions, one about team, one about money, and sometimes they are kind of interfering with each other. As a new media artist, usually you will need to work with other people, I guess, because technology, you don't cover every specialization. When you visualize your work, you might need to work with another special effect artist or a technician, or even at the production of the pieces, you need some other even workers outside of art. That I believe you need to be a good team worker to be a new media artist. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Especially in your earlier days, you need to work with people so you can learn from them, understand your limitations, see the beyonds of your own abilities and beyond your own talent or cognitive horizon. So what are other people doing? How they approach to their own craft. What do you don't like about it, or what do you like about it? But along the way, I think it's better to become a multidisciplinary person. At least on a basic level, you can do most of the things you are required to be doing. Getting better at documenting your work, getting better at presenting your work, getting better at maybe some like small editing, sound design things, that would normally require maybe another professional. But if you at least learn the basics, if you at least can create a draft of what you're trying to achieve, I think you can have better collaborations. You can convey your idea better to your team, and also maybe you're gonna find out maybe you can do most of the things that you want to do as a solo artist. But it's a yeah, it's a try and fail kind of thing for me to understand that process, but also respecting other people's techniques. Like I said, understanding your limitations, and as asking for help, because sometimes you think that you need the other people more than he or she needs you, but sometimes it's not the way it is. Maybe they're looking just someone like you, and they would love working with you together, collaborating on something. And especially with the technicalities of this type of work, sometimes some people are more technical and they want to work with an artist or an art director who would think more about the concepts, the aesthetics of it, the design of it. And sometimes it's vice versa, you know.
How is the community of new media artists like? I guess you have like painter friends. They would complain about the competition, one for themselves, him or herself. So there is no collaboration or lack of collaboration compared to, let's say, film industry. Because film industry, in the rolling credit, you see thousands of people working on a large-scale project, thousands easy, right? So how is the dynamic between like interpersonal relationship in new media art?
I think it's just like any other industry. There are all kinds of people. I think one of the things about the internet and like open source communities, like you can find your own community if you look for it, if you search for it. There are lots of documentations about all kinds of new technologies or software or experimental things, especially when they're in their experimental phase and it's open source. You can find limitless amount of information about it, and some people really like to share their process, their approach. And and just like any other industry, there are also people who are very competitive, and you're gonna have some competition, and you can't really get away from it. You need to toughen up and learn to stand your ground, and like I said, set your preferences straight. But I think it's good to have both, like to have some supportive friends, to have some more sharing. I mean, personally too, you gotta share something so that other people can learn from you and you can learn from them. But you also gotta have at least a friendly way of competition in yourself, maybe with yourself, so you can develop and get better.
It's give and take. You can't just take,
Yeah.
take, and not give. Totally.
Right. Yeah, yeah. But I find people more supportive and more sharing than they're competitive in this field or community.
I see. And now I'd like to talk about money. So many younger person, they look at new media art, they think it's glorious, they think it's like the new film industry, the Hollywood in their prime times, and they think it's going to be a big opportunity to make money. And even I had some business school friends. They have no idea what is art, what is new media art, but they see VR, they see AI-generated imagery, and they think, oh, it's my opportunity to get in there to get some quick cash and get out of it. But I've been telling them this is not how it works. So how is the money situation going on in this field?
I mean, art in general is a high risk, high gain industry. A lot of people fail along the way. I mean, it's not something you can advise to everyone, as a career to follow. You need to have certain qualities in you. If your intention is right, if you have some sort of talent and interest in the field, and also some courage to face those challenges and have a more unpredictable path, but also you enjoy the process and you learn from it, then I believe you can do it. But also in terms of like the economics of it, if you want a long lasting career, like if that's your intention, I don't think the short term game is gonna work, because and you can do it. There are some people who benefits from a boom in a new technology. They can make some, for instance, NFTs. Like it was like a great, perfect moment to make quick cash for lots of fellows. But I don't know if they're gonna continue creating art, or like I said, you attract the type of people that you are. So if you just pursue that kind of path, and it's just about making money in the short term and not really giving or not really caring about a long lasting career, then those kind of people are gonna find you and they become your peers and friends. And I don't know, that kind of community would guide you to a long-term happiness. It's a personal preference for everyone, and if you believe in it, if you really love what you're doing, I think over time it's rewarding. I remember like some of the musicians that I've been following in my teenage years, like I got this idea of like, if you can make a living through your art and not have a side job or side gig, then you made it as an artist, you know. So it doesn't matter.
Do you have side gigs?
Yeah, I can make a living through my art. I feel fortunate. Yeah, yeah. So I can say it's a modest life, and everybody's understanding of modesty is different also. But I believe if you can make a living through your own creations, that's a win.
Yes, you build your own lifestyle, you're your own boss, you answer to no one, and create things, create visions that people, share with. That's a very rewarding career indeed.
And I think autonomy and independence is invaluable. You know, you can't put a price on it. I mean, you can be a tech billionaire, but surrounded by, nets of necessities and, like terrible people and like a stressful life. Like being an independent, autonomous creator, I think it's invaluable.
And can you share with us some of the milestones that you had in your career that really made you autonomous?
Autonomous, yeah, like the cars.
Yes, that made you autonomous, successful, and basically like made you who you are. What are the key events, key people, key works, projects, or even other artists who made you who you are today?
There are infinite amount of people who contributed to all that I could do, so it's a long list for sure, starting with parents, friends, teachers. Like it's a long list, but like there are some very obvious turning points. The most important recent one was getting a Fulbright scholarship from United States State Department, because it allowed me to pursue my master's in San Francisco and not think about anything else in those several years, so that I could just focus on my art, have a studio at SFAI, and have supporting colleagues and teachers and just develop my own art. Those 2 years were really magical, and I founded a lot of the ideas that I'm pursuing right now in those 2 years. Like you can see very clearly the aesthetic approach, the concepts, the media experimentation, the seeds are in that process. Another, I think, important experience was Autodesk Pier 9 artist residency, because it also allowed me to work in a workshop environment. It's like a dream workshop, basically, that an artist can dream of from any particular background, I had great experiences working with like very expensive machinery in there, made more physical experimentation, and brought some of my digital ideas into physical with those 3D printers, for instance, laser cutters, CNC machinery. So that, and also I had really great fellows in that residency program coming from really different, diverse backgrounds. Working with them was really cool. Also sharing our work, supporting each other's work. That was a very important period. And those two probably are like important turning points. When it comes to exhibitions and works, I think like one of the turning points for me was my first dome/VR audiovisual piece called Morphogenesis that I made in 2016 and developed it through the years. The interesting part about that work was it was my transition piece from projection mapping, projection installation type of work into the world of virtual reality and more immersive experiences. Understanding that 360 format allowed me to showcase that particular work in so many different places, in geodesic structures, in VR headsets, also, in digital prints and widescreen panoramas. That work allowed me to showcase in so many countries and cities. One of them is the Art Futura exhibition back in 2017 in Rome, where we exhibited this panoramic version of morphogenesis along with a few other interactive pieces. I had the chance to showcase that work for 4 months in Rome. Understanding like digital media can go to so many places through just as a digital file without your being there or installing the work, that really encouraged me to pursue more of a digital workflow and remote working, and that also changed my lifestyle, I think, understanding that can be done.
I see. And I would like to give a special thanks to Moncho from Art Futura, who put us together in contact. I have seen your work from the brochures of Art Futura, so I knew about you, and he recommended me to talk to you about becoming a new media artist and to get to know the ecosystem and present the knowledge to our community. So thank you very much, Moncho, and thank you very much, Art Futura, to put us together to make it happen. And the last part, I want to know a little bit about what is the future as a new media artist, because now with AI, with the whole world is different. Do you think there will be more and more just new media artists just have a kind of a rush of blood to their head and say, I want to be a new media artist because I can? It's like now the amount of self-publishing books on Amazon is like skyrocketing because now everyone can write with ChatGPT, right? So how would AI influence your career particularly?
Every new technology that creates a paradigm shift creates new opportunities and ruins some other things. It happens at the same time. But I think it keeps us growing and innovating and challenging ourselves, challenging our understanding of human creativity. And now maybe we're going to be computing with supercomputers or other things, new technologies, and I think it's a good challenge. We gotta keep fighting for our own species and our own imagination, and hopefully we're gonna become even better creators through our symbiotic relationship with technology. So I don't want to really look at it like, oh, it's like this is the end now. Like I don't think so. I think it might be the end for some folks who won't really grow themselves or challenge themselves with a new way of looking at technology and their art. I think it's gonna at the end require even more creativity and even more art, because that's gonna be the most precious thing a human being can contribute to the world through their imagination, through their creations, through their ideas, because I think in that frontier we can be ahead of the AI, because machine learning, it's great. It learns faster, quicker, broader than a human brain can work. But at the end, we're giving that input through our own ideas, creations, outputs. So we can still be ahead of it, and we can use it as a tool to produce even better work. Beside that, more specifically in my own art, generative AI for sure is very exciting, and I'm very looking forward to where it's gonna go. But the thing that I'm even more excited about is more related to spatial computing worlds, because I believe we dealt too long in the world of 2D interfaces and 2D screens and the way we interact with digital world, in these keyboards and mouse and touch displays and those things. I believe transition into a more three-dimensional interface, a more spatial way of interacting with digital space, and it's overlapping with our own vision and own physical space, I think that's going to be the new frontier, and it's going to require a higher dimensional creativity to really utilize this new spatial world. And yeah, we see news of new gadgets coming for the future of spatial computing, and I'm excited to use those technologies when they're available and create with them.
I like you mentioned one word is when you talk about the artist's cognitive ability, or cognitive space, landscape. I forgot the exact word, but
The horizon, yeah, the cognitive horizon.
the cognitive horizon. That's a word that really it kind of made me think, because it's true that a lot of our abilities had been kind of grayed out because it's not within the cognitive horizon. There are limitations, but we can break those barriers and to activate and find our secrets, hidden creativity. Because I think creativity everyone has. It's just like muscles. You didn't exercise it and it didn't grow. How did you activate your cognitive horizon?
I mean, personally, I was always interested in like psychology, neuroscience, physics, and like understanding the universe and human brain and all those things. So there, like beside art and technology, there is a personal growth and intellectual curiosity in that space. But its intersection with my own discipline, some of those like aha moments for me was working with projection mapping for the first time and seeing my work outside of screens and in the space, and to be able to manipulate the space you're in or the objects around you. That was a aha moment and epiphany for me, because I thought, oh wow, like there I see there's so many possibilities with this now. So that was the seed of my interest in how the relationship between these two worlds would go. Uh, Another thing probably was when I tried the VR headset. Uh, that was a moment of, oh, I see, like we can do so many things with this. Like this is amazing, and this is where the future of media needs to go, rather than larger and larger screens. And hopefully at some point, if there would be a technology that would directly communicate with our brains, the human computer interface, if it becomes possible. One of my cognitive scientist teachers wasn't really sure about the future of that, because he believes that human brain is too complex for computers to be able to decode. But all these recent developments gives us some hope of that can really happen in the future if we don't blow up the planet before it.
The planet is fine. It's us
Yeah.
who are the
Yeah.
dying species. The planet didn't care, I guess. I mean, it didn't care about dinosaurs. And here we are, and they're like, oh, a new residence here, let's repeat. And we didn't learn nothing, huh?
If we don't blow up ourselves, then, right?
You mentioned the brain and the body and the machine. That reminds me of Starlek, the
Yeah.
bionic. Why didn't you go to that direction? Just curiosity. Or did you?
I think it's far ahead in our future, that human brain computer interface. It's far in the future. I think for a while, at least a few decades, we're still going to be dealing with sensors and screens and inputs of and those kind of interaction with the computer. So I want to explore it imaginatively, maybe as a concept in the work, as a content. But I think technologically focusing what is available and what is closest to you, I think it's a better way of managing your time, because our time is limited.
Totally agree. I remembered I was the first in my class when I was studying film to use HD, 1080p. And I was struggling to edit a documentary homework assignment, and others were doing SD, and they finished their work and they're happy, and I was struggling, all week, and it took so long to render, to have any kind of, subtitling kind of treatment. And finally, my work couldn't even be shown as HD because the school computers are just projectors are showing SD.
Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, the cost of to be ahead of your time is to waste
Right.
your time.
Right. Yeah.
If you have the time, great. Yeah, you can test the borders, test the limits, but at certain points, it's not realistic. And you have to be realistic to say, okay, is it available? No. Can people read it, touch it, experience it? No. So
I think that's kind of wisdom to know that. I think if you're wise, you may foresee that, oh, maybe it's going to take a few generations to get there, Maybe it's not something that I need to focus on right now. It doesn't mean that you need to be just realistic and just be not be dreamy about your ideas, but I think there is like a fine balance in that, to really live your time or feel your time.
is there any kind of advice you would like to give to young artists today who is entering new media? Is there anything that I missed, I didn't ask you, or anything or spill some tea?
Yeah. I can only say be courageous, and also have some sort of like self criticism about yourself, like be bold but also be cautious and conscious of your intentions and your art at the same time. Do not afraid, but don't become a
Egoistic.
yeah, let's say that.
To always constantly be self-aware, put a mirror up on the wall
Yeah.
and look,
Self-awareness, yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, self-assessment. But most people have inflated self-assessment. This is how our society is about, right? Fake it until you make it. This is how our society is
Yeah.
training the children to be. In terms of looking back at your career, what would you wish have done differently? Talking about self-awareness and, modesty and everything.
I wouldn't change it so much because every experience led me to where I am right now, which I'm happy to be in. Maybe I could just when making some certain decisions, like life-changing decisions, maybe like quitting a job or quitting a relationship or things like that, I would advise myself to don't hesitate much, because at the end it just becomes a waste of time. Just be quicker about those decisions. That wouldn't change too much in my life, but I would just save time and save energy.
Yeah, you wouldn't change the course of your career or your life, but you would rather make it a little more efficient, so you probably could have more time to make art.
Yeah.
I think we have talked plenty. We've given some advice and some personal stories. So before finishing this video, I just want to give a big thanks to our patrons. We have a Patreon page and we have supporters who help me find time and to motivate me. And this is the New Media Artist Talk. This is the very first with John. And then we'll be doing probably more. So there are more videos to come. I will leave the link of John's website, his YouTube channel in the description below. So you can also go there and check it out. Can also make interviews with other professionals in the industry. So you can learn plenty if you want to become a new media artist.
Thank you, Mo. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for inviting me to your podcast. This was a really fun conversation, and I had a good time. Thank you. And I wish you the best with your upcoming shows.
Same to you. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Bye.